I am going back to the drawing board on my British Golden Ale style study, and that all starts now. Welcome to Big Monster Brewing, the Style Study Edition. I am Matt, and today I am revisiting the British Golden Ale style with another attempt at making an example of that beer to build a recipe from. But before we get to that, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, like, share, comment, and all those other things that I just still feel like I'm always missing something. This is my second attempt at a test batch for a British Golden Ale. The first one, if you've seen the video, there were two immediate mistakes right on pouring. One, there was far too much wheat malt, making the beer completely hazy. And second, the hop aroma and flavor just was not coming through the way the style guidelines explain that they should. So it's a relatively simple recipe to adjust, and I made a few modifications, and that's what I'm going to try this time. So let's talk about what that recipe actually is. This time it starts with 1 pound and 6 ounce of Golden Promise Pale Malt, which replaces the American Pale Malt from my last test. Then I add 14.4 ounces of British Maris Otter Malt, making this almost a completely British malt grist. The exception is the 4 ounces of Carapils that I add in to round this all out. To start this brew, I get 2.5 gallons of water on the stove and start heating it up. While that heats up, I mill the grains. I'm doing a mash in a bag, so I set up the bag in the mash tun and set the mill to run the grains through a second time and have that second crush go directly into the bag. I want to mash in at 152 degrees Fahrenheit, and the brew in the bag water calculator says I need to get my strike water up to 157. When the water's ready, I add it to the mash tun. I measure the temperature of the mash, and I'm just a touch high at 153, but that's going to be no problem at all for this beer. Now on to the hops. The first batch I tried First Gold hops, and I didn't quite get that aroma and flavor that I was hoping to out of them. So this time I'm trying one that's slightly stronger in terms of alpha acids, and it's a hop that I've been wanting to try to see what kind of characteristics it brings to a beer. So this was a perfect opportunity. For this test batch, I am using Jester hops. The first hop addition is 0.32 ounces of Jester at 20 minutes. The second addition is 0.1 ounce of Jester at 2 minutes. And the third addition being 0.2 ounce of Jester, of course, at flame out. There will be a dry hop addition for this beer, and that's going to be 0.25 ounce, again, of Jester hops that I'm going to dry hop for 4 days. And of course, in a boil, I will add yeast nutrients at 10 minutes and Royal Flock at 2 minutes. After the 50-minute single infusion mash, I let the grain bag drain and boil off about a gallon of the sweet wort through the grain bed. Then I drain the contents of the mash tun into the boil kettle. I take a pre-boiled gravity sample and I hit my target of 1031 exactly. I get the kettle onto the burner and start ramping up for the boil. This is going to be a 60-minute boil, so once it's up to that aggressive, vigorous boil, I start the timer and wait for that 20-minute mark, and I can add my first addition of hops. 10 minutes later, I add the yeast nutrients. At the 2-minute mark, I add the second hop addition, followed by the Royal Flock. And then at the very end, I add the last hop addition and turn off the heat. I put the wort in an ice bath and chill it down below 80 degrees. I take a starting gravity reading, and again, I hit my numbers exactly at 1045. From there, I put the wort in a 1-gallon fermenter and put it in the fermentation fridge to drop it to the pitching temperature of 64 degrees. Once it reaches 64 degrees, I pitch the small yeast starter of Y Yeast 1098, the British ale strain, into the wort and let it ferment. Fermentation takes roughly 10 days, and at that point, I cold crash it, keg it, carbonate it, also bottle it, and now I am ready to taste what this second version of the British Golden Ale tastes like. It is tasting time, round 2 for the British Golden Ale, and I have a bottle of the new recipe here. I also have a copy of the BJCP guidelines, so I'm going to do what we usually do and just run through each descriptor and see what works and what doesn't work. So first, got to open it. I do like hearing that hiss. It makes me really happy with the decision of how I'm filling bottles now. So I'm going to do the pour on camera, or as best I can. And okay, a little head. I was worried I was going to get no head there, but a little bit of one formed. So, all right, let's go. I'd like to start with appearance, even though it's jumping a little ahead in the guidelines. Straw to golden in color, good to brilliant clarity, low to moderate white head. A low head is acceptable when carbonation is low. So, I would say the color is there. That is definitely gold. In fact, I wish I'd held that up before the condensation hit, because you can also see, I think, maybe, for once, usually it doesn't work well at this camera. I think you can see how clear it is. I don't know. Let's say brilliant, or was there a range? Good to brilliant clarity. Okay, it's definitely good clarity. Not quite brilliant. I'm sure if these bottles sat for another month or so undisturbed, it would probably reach brilliant. That last little bit of whatever is causing just a slight, not even a haze, but keeping it from being brilliant, I should say, would drop out. I'm going to try to get the condensation off here in one shot to get a good look at it. There we go. It's definitely good clarity. I mean, I don't think there's going to be much of an argument there. Low to moderate white head, definitely low and white. In fact, the head that came with the pour disappeared. We got a nice tight collar and a nice dusting, actually kind of like a clump of really, really fine bubbles on the top, which I can't really tilt to get this on camera. But I think if you've poured enough beers in your life, you probably know exactly what that looks like. So, aroma. Hop aroma is moderate, low to moderately high, and can use a variety of hops. Floral, herbal, or earthy English hops, and citrusy American hops are most common. Frequently, a single hop varietal is showcased. Little to no malt aroma, no caramel, medium low to low fruity aroma from the hops rather than the esters. Little to no diacetyl. So this time, as opposed to the last one I made, I do get a floral aroma right away. It's almost perfume-like. It's not chemically perfumed, but it's like the perfumey type of aroma. Not burning, not as strong as a normal perfume, but it's definitely floral. Maybe a little herbal, but floral for sure. I mean, that's quite distinct. No malts at all, which I didn't expect. I was gonna say some fruitiness from the esters, but I don't think so. It's all floral with just a little bit of herbal behind it. That's the entire aroma. So at least I got the aroma better than the first version of this. Flavor, here we go. Medium to medium high bitterness. Hop flavor is moderate to moderately high of any hop variety, although citrus flavors are increasingly common. Medium low to low malt character, generally bready with perhaps a little biscuit flavor. Caramel flavors are typically absent. Little to no diacetyl. Hop bitterness and flavor should be pronounced. Moderately low esters, medium dry to dry finish. Bitterness increases with alcohol level, but is always balanced. All right, let's see what we got. I will say, right off the bat, and I think it's within the guidelines, it's surprisingly bitter. And I say that because the first edition wasn't until 20 minutes, so there was no bittering edition. So with that in mind, this is actually, I'm going to taste that again. Maybe it's just from a palate shock. Yeah, it's significantly bitter. Not astringent. Not in a bad way. It's just, I'm surprised because the additions were so late. I didn't put a bittering hop in. This has got the bittering of a like really big bittering hop charge, and there's none. So I'm surprised by that. Let me go back to the flavor here, see where that fits in. I think it does. Medium to medium high bitterness. Okay, it's medium high. It might almost be high. There was another thing, bitterness increases with alcohol level. Okay, the alcohol level is kind of in the mid-range for the style, so that's not really it. I did see another one, right? Hop bitterness and flavor should be pronounced. Okay, so the bitterness is pronounced. I did taste almost the exact same floral hop that I got in aroma, which is kind of neat. I always like when that matches. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes you get a taste and your taste and aroma differ widely in a good way in some cases a bad way. But this is kind of neat that it's almost the exact, it tastes like it smells. Yeah, it's almost like a sweet floralness to it. I don't think the sweet is coming from the malt. I think it is a little bit of a perceived sweetness from that type of floral characters hop is bringing to it. A little bit of earthiness too, almost like a not quite sure what I'd say. I usually use like a wild grass or wild flower as my earthiness descriptor, but it's not quite that. It's kind of like maybe like a root vegetable. As strange as that sounds, like not a potato or carrot, but more like I'm actually gonna say turnip. It doesn't taste like a turnip, but it's got a hint of that earthiness root vegetable flavor to it. Something like that. What's another one? A beet maybe might be a better description of the sweetness. There is a malt character to it. And I think it says it can be like bready or biscuity. Generally bready and perhaps a little biscuity flavor. I'm definitely getting that biscuity, almost raw wheat on the finish, which I actually kind of like. I'm not quite sure if it's in style, but I like. Let's go on to mouthfeel. I got one more characteristic to talk about. Light to medium body, low to moderate carbonation on draft, although bottled commercial versions can be higher. Strong versions may have a slight alcohol warmth, but the character should not be too high. Definitely light to medium bodied. I think it's just under medium, so it's definitely in between those, leaning more towards medium. Moderate carbonation. I can feel the carbonation while I'm drinking it, so that's, I think, on. The rest is all conditional. This is not a strong ABV, so it doesn't really have much of a warmth, maybe a little bit. We can see, maybe I can see, I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of effervescence coming from the bottle of glass, so the carbonation is definitely moderate. Let me give it one more taste because I'm actually liking this a lot. I still don't know if this is exactly what a British Golden Ale should be, but I know it's a hell of a lot closer than the first one. If I were to do this again, which I may, I have enough bottles to enter this in a competition. It all depends on what else I have ready if I'm going to enter it or not. If I were going to enter it, I would want to enter it more as feedback than as a contender. And with entry limits being really low this year, this being our first competition season, well, I was going to say post-COVID, but we're not. But our first competition season since COVID hit, whatever you want to call it, you got limited competition or limited entries. So I may not, only because I might have some other ones that could be contenders for medals and whatnot. But we have a couple normally under normal conditions, a couple competitions that are kind of unlimited or really super high entries, and you get a lot more. If there is a limit cap, it's less than or more than there are now, and I could enter this for feedback and cross my fingers for a medal. This season being what it is, I might not do that, but I would really like feedback on this. So I'll probably take the bottles that I have left to a homebrew club meeting or two and get some second opinions. Because I still am learning the style. But even if this isn't a British Golden Ale, this is a really fun, tasty beer. That bitterness blows me away. I don't know how that much bitterness can come out of a 20-minute edition. It might have something to do with the hops. I may want to try this again with a hop that I know really well, like a Citra Galaxy or something, and see if it gets as bitter or if the hoppiness comes through. That's actually not a bad idea to try just as an experiment. Maybe once things wind down from competition season to see. This could be a jester characteristic. I don't know because I don't know the style that well. And it's my first time using that hop. But I guess with all that said, there's a certain level of success to this because this has been a really fun beer to taste. I always enjoy brewing no matter what I brew. And I may or may not have a British Gold. I have a British Golden Ale. Whether it's to style, I don't know. And I think I have the opportunity to maybe get some more feedback from other people and find out. But the more I'm thinking about this and the more I'm talking about this and the more I'm tasting this, the more I'm really liking whatever this is. I do think it's my British Golden Ale so far. Who knows if it's in style? I need a couple second opinions. it's a little different than I expected, which is why I'm not too sure. So that's always been a challenge of some of these style study videos, especially with the alt beer. I mean, you guys know, but if you've been watching for a while, I'm going to go ahead and pour this in because I'm definitely going to finish this beer. You definitely know my obsession with alt beers, and I never knew what one tasted like, and I wasn't real sure until I entered it into competition and got good feedback and actually won some medals on it that I realized I had an alt beer. This might be the start of the journey of my obsession with a British Golden Ale. I don't know. We'll see. So, all right. I've rambled on long enough. I'm not going to say this is inconclusive because when you have a beer that I can't wait to finish and have another bottle of, I think you have a success. So that will do it for this episode. I'll be back, of course, with more. I got one coming up. It's probably the most simplest brew you could ever possibly do on the Anvil Foundry is the next video up. And it's probably going to piss some people off that I even did it, but it's, hey, I like to show what the Anvil Foundry can do. And sometimes it does things that aren't popular, I guess. That was a really weird phrase. That'll make more sense when the next video comes out, I think. So until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.